Today I'll be showing you how to put a chain back on if it's fallen off. The first step is to make sure that you have your chain on your back chain ring. Once you've done that, you can lift this piece right here and you can place your chain halfway on the front chain ring. Once you've done that, you should be able to just turn your cranks and it should go back on. Once you've done that, make sure that you go through all of the gears on your bike, up and down, in order to make sure that it is correct and put on completely. The next bike maintenance thing I will be showing you today is how to change a tire. The first step is to remove the tire. Once you've removed the tire, the next step is to completely deflate it, unless it was already completely deflated because it's popped. Okay, now that we have the tire almost completely deflated, the next step would be to go in with tire levers. I unfortunately do not have a set of those currently, but you would normally place your tire lever in here, go around the whole entire tire. I can do it with my fingers to completely break that seal. Once you've done that, you got to make sure to push this valve through, because this will allow you to remove the tube by taking this little piece off. Once you've done that, you want to peel back the actual tire rubber and pull it over the rim. Oh. This is why you want tire levers, because this is kind of painful for your fingers. But once you've gotten it to where it's completely peeled back like this over the rim, it's super easy. You should just be able to pull your tube out. My tube still has a little bit of air in it. Once you've done that, make sure to pull this small valve piece out with your tube and don't break it. Now you have your tube completely out. The next step would be, if you can, find where the leak in your tire was. Mine was right here, just on the small part, because you can see some of the air coming out, and there's also tear marks in it. If you can find that, you can use a patch kit to be able to fix that. Or if you're going to put a whole new tube in, make sure you find a tube that is the correct size. Mine's a 27.5, so I'm hoping this is the right size tube. You can go ahead, unroll that, open it all the way up. Right here you can see the valve. Make sure to take these pieces off of it so you can put it through the hole for the valve in the rim. Once you've done this, find where the valve should be going into the rim and start by putting that in. And then you can go ahead and put your tube back in, making sure that you lay the tube flat and it doesn't have any pinches or creases in it. Also make sure that you feel in the rim or the tire on the inside to find where the goat head or whatever may have pinched your tire, made a flat tire for you, is out, so you don't pop this tube. Make sure that you have the tube completely on the rim and that it's not sticking out or has any room for the tire to pinch. The next part is you're gonna, once again, this is where you'd use tire levers, but you can place the tire rubber back inside the rim. This is where you'd want the tire levers so you don't pinch your fingers. Just really essentially just press it back in, and then you just put air in it and you'd be all set to go. Now that we've gotten some air in this tire after changing it, we can talk about tire pressure. Your PSI is the measurement of air in your tire based on your terrain, your style of riding, your weight, or just what kind of activity you're participating in. The PSI can change. For a mountain bike rider, from 135 to 145, typically will run a 35 PSI. Some people go lower or higher based on if they're doing some kind of cross-country mountain biking, they're doing cycling, or if they're doing some sort of muddy off-road terrain style riding. I typically will keep 35 in my tires just because I prefer for it to be firmer and it helps with climbing. If you're just doing some kind of leisurely activity like riding around in your cul-de-sac or just going on a simple mountain bike ride, that's typically a good amount to have in there. Making sure you have the right amount of pressure in your tires is probably one of the most important things. For example, this tire, as you can see, very squishy, not firm at all. This back tire, when you press in it, there's minimal movement. When you want to pump up your tire, make sure that you unscrew the valve, which is the smaller piece on the end. You'll know you're unscrewing it because you should hear air puffing out of it. Next thing to do is, my pump is slightly broken, but you'll press this on and pull the latch up and make sure just to hold it in place. While you're doing that, you can pump and read the measurement of your PSI based on what the little red arrow is looking at. You also should just be able to feel your tire and see where it's like firm or if it's still relatively squishy. Once you feel like you put enough air in your tire, make sure to screw the valve closed, completely closed so you don't lose any air. That makes it to where when you press on this end piece, no air will come out. Our next topic of discussion is just regular bike maintenance in general, what to look for before you go for a ride. The first most important thing is to make sure that your bike is just like completely put together. You don't have loose bolts, you don't have any funky noises that when you're riding around. Make sure that your brakes are completely like working functional. There's no squeaking, there's no rubbing, you have a good amount of tension in your brakes, so when you pull, it's immediately stopping you. You also want to make sure that all of your chains and gears, when you rotate and click through, that you don't have any sort of grinding or anything that's just like abnormal or could be dangerous when you're on the trail. Another important thing to go through is make sure that your cranks are put on completely. There's no wobble when you're pulling on them. Your suspension is set up for your ride. You can go through and change it based on if you're going uphill, if you're going downhill, or if you're just on a smoother trail versus a rocky trail. Another important thing to look for when you're riding is that your rims and spokes are all intact, that you don't have any loose spokes or any like gashes in your rims or scratches or anything that could be a crack and end up breaking while you're riding. Also, another important thing is make sure you have good tools for when you're riding. So some kind of Allen key, some way of pumping up a flat tire on the trail. You also want to have a spare tube and some kind of pouch to put all of your gear in. So make sure when you're carrying your spare tube that you have it properly wrapped. This is not properly wrapped up. Also, that you have some kind of pouch that you can put all of your stuff in. This you can usually put either underneath your seat post attached to your bike, or you can have some kind of camelback or other backpack to be able to carry your tools in.